We're going to talk about how we would level the platens on the Viper 2. The tools that we want for this, you're going to want something that you're going to use as a gauge, and it theoretically could be just about anything. In this particular case, I happen to have 3/4, which is what I'm going to use. You either want a crescent wrench or a 10mm box wrench. And what we're going to do with the wrench is the platens are adjustable. You can see down here there's a screw and a nut, and obviously if I tighten this, it's going to pull this down. If I loosen it, it's going to let this raise. We want to make sure that this platen in every single corner is perfectly level to the print head. Now, you can't measure from up here down to here. That technique doesn't work. It has to be from the print surface, the top of the platen, up to the print head. Now I'm going to remove the cover and set it off to the side. And now we've got to do something special at the control panel. Now let's take a look at the operation that we're going to use in order to release the print head from the capping station, yet still provide the machine with power so that we can adjust the height of the bed. We're going to start by powering the machine off, so we're going to press the power button. And it takes a moment to power off. Okay, now that we've heard the beeps, now we know the machine is completely powered down. So now we are going to power it back up again. Now as we do this, I'm now going to watch the print head, and when it comes off of the capping station over to the other side of the machine, I'm going to press the emergency stop button. Okay, it has moved over. I press the emergency stop button. The print head is now free. But at this point in time, there's no power to the machine, so the bed would be inoperable. So to make it so that we can operate the bed, okay, we're going to release the emergency stop button, but we're not going to turn on the power. If we look now, we can see we have power to the bed functions. The light is lit here, and the bed lowers and raises. We're going to need to check every single corner of each platen. I'm going to start with the back corner. I'm going to set my stack of quarters up here. Now again, the quarters could just as easily be a couple nickels. It could be an Allen wrench. It could theoretically be anything. We're just using it as a gauge. So what you use is not critical. The reason I like to use the quarters is because most people have a few quarters, and the way they're stacked, if I bring the print head over towards them and I hit them, they're just going to fall over. So it's not going to do any damage to anything, although we're not going to actually use the print head itself. There's a little piece of plastic that sticks down that's just off to the side of the print head, but it remains at the same consistent height as the print head itself. So now that I've got the quarters stacked here, I'm going to push the platen in by hand And then I'm going to bring the print head over. And I want the little plastic piece, this piece right here, okay, not the actual print head, the piece next to it, the little rectangular piece of plastic, is what I'm going to use as my gauge. I want it just off to the side of the quarters, and I'm going to use the bed up button, and I'm going to bring the bed up. Now I'm going to check it. Still a little low. Raise it a little more. And I want this to just barely be touching this stack of quarters. That's touching a little too much. I'm going to drop it down. Check it again. Perfect. It's just barely touching that top quarter. I'm going to actually bring this up just a touch. Beautiful. So now I don't want the height to try and adjust itself. So I'm going to lock the bed so it doesn't try and adjust. The way we do that is we press the bed up and bed down buttons simultaneously, and the light changes from green to amber, saying the gap sensors are now defeated. So as I break the beam, the bed doesn't try and adjust the height. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my stack of quarters over to the other corner, and I need to be the exact same height from that little piece of plastic. So now I'm going to bring the print head back over, and that's too low because I'm clearly knocking that stack off. So now we're going to pull the platen out, and that's just a little too high. So using my box wrench, I'm going to take that nut and I'm going to tighten it a little bit, which would be turning it away from me, and that'll lower that corner slightly. Now I'm going to push it back in and check it again. And I'm just barely touching that quarter, and it's almost riding over the top of it, just like it did in the other corner. So now I'm going to pull this out, and I'm going to move my corners to the back right-hand corner, and I'm going to check the height of that corner. And that one looks pretty good. So now I'm going to take the stack and I'm going to move it over to the last corner, and I'm going to check that. Now that one is actually too low. We're clearing. So now that has to get raised slightly. So I'm going to again pull the platen out. I'm going to take that adjustment nut and for this one we need to loosen it, so I'm going to turn this one backwards a little bit. Okay, and now I'm going to push it back in and check it again. Still a little too low. We'll make another little adjustment. Check it again. Still not there yet, so we need to keep adjusting this until we get it so that all these corners are the exact same distance away. And there we go. We're just starting to slide that top quarter again, which is exactly how we were on the other four corners. We will now repeat this process for every single corner on each one of these different platens until we have the whole thing adjusted. You want to make sure, once you're done doing that, make sure you turn your bed up down button back on again. So we hit the two buttons simultaneously. The light turns green again, letting us know that it's active. And then we need to power up the machine. We've got to make sure that that print head goes back to the capping station. And that's the reason when we do this leveling of the platens, we want to make sure we do this before we put ink in the machine. So now I'm going to simply hit the power button and the machine will power up and the print head will dock itself.